Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, watching the stars drift by through the main view screen. He had been exploring deep space for 15 years, and thought he had seen everything the galaxy could offer. Today would prove him wrong in the worst possible way. The Horizon was a good ship with a crew of 200 people who trusted Jake with their lives. His second in command was Commander Lisa Yang, who handled all the science work. Chief Mike Henderson ran security and kept everyone safe. Communications officer Amy Carter made sure they could talk to anyone they met out here in the dark. They were doing a simple survey mission in the Kepler 442 system, looking for planets that humans might want to live on someday. The work was boring but important. Jake liked boring. Boring meant everyone went home to their families when the mission ended. Amy looked up from her station with worry in her eyes. "Captain, we have contacts on sensors. Multiple ships approaching from the outer system." Lisa checked her readings twice before speaking. "Sir, these are not human ships. The design is completely unknown. Energy signatures are off the charts." Jake felt his stomach drop. First contact with aliens was supposed to happen near Earth with diplomats and scientists ready, not out here with just one exploration ship. "How many ships, Amy?" 57 vessels, sir. They are big, much bigger than anything we have ever built." Mike moved to his weapons console even though everyone knew the Horizon only had basic defensive systems. "Captain, should I raise shields?" "Do it, but keep weapons powered down." "Amy, send them our standard first contact message. All frequencies." The alien ships moved with perfect formation like they had done this 1,000 times before. They were beautiful in a deadly way. Each vessel looked like it was carved from a single piece of blue crystal that caught and bent the starlight. Jake had never seen anything so elegant or so terrifying. Amy worked at her station for several minutes. "Sir, I am getting a response. The computer is trying to translate, but this language is completely new. Give me a few more minutes." Jake watched the alien formation take positions around his ship. They moved like hunters surrounding prey. "Lisa, what can you tell me about their technology?" "Captain, their power levels are incredible. Each of those ships could probably destroy us with a single shot. But they are not targeting us yet." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's systems and Amy's fingers flying over her keyboard. Everyone was thinking the same thing. They were completely outgunned and thousands of light years from help. Amy finally looked up with relief on her face. "Captain, I have basic translation working. They are called the Zephyrian Empire. Their leader wants to talk." The main screen changed to show the interior of one of the alien ships. The being looking back at them was tall and thin with blue skin that seemed to shimmer like metal. Its eyes were large and completely black. When it spoke, its voice was cold and sharp. "I am Fleet Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. You have entered territory claimed by our people. State your purpose here." Jake stepped forward and tried to project calm confidence. "Commander Veltar, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. We come in peace. We did not know this system was claimed. We are explorers looking for new worlds." Veltar's face showed something that might have been amusement. Peace. An interesting concept from such a primitive species. You humans think you can simply wander wherever you choose. We mean no harm to you or your people. If this is your territory, we will leave immediately. Leave. Veltar repeated the word like it tasted bad. "Do you think we are fools, Captain Morrison? First you trespass, then you offer to leave as if that erases your violation. The Zephyrian Empire does not tolerate such disrespect." Lisa moved closer to Jake and whispered, "Captain, their weapons are powering up." Jake raised his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "Commander, we truly did not know. There was no marker or warning. We will broadcast your territorial claims to our government so no other human ships make this mistake." "Mistake," Veltar said, and his laugh was like breaking glass. "You speak of mistakes. The mistake was yours when you left your homeworld thinking you could explore our galaxy without consequences." Mike stepped up beside his captain. "Sir, multiple alien ships are moving toward the research station." Jake's blood went cold. Research Station Alpha was only 2 light minutes away with 200 scientists studying stellar phenomena. They had no weapons and no military protection. "Commander Veltar, please. There are civilians at that station. Scientists who are just trying to learn about the universe. They have nothing to do with politics or territory. Then they will serve as an excellent example to the rest of your species." The screen went black. Jake spun toward his crew. "Amy, get me the station now." Mike, raise shields and prepare for evasive maneuvers. Lisa tracked those alien ships. Station Alpha is responding, sir, Amy said. Dr. Patricia Kim wants to know why we ordered them to evacuate. Tell her to get everyone to the escape pods right now. No questions, no delays. Lisa's voice was tight with fear. Captain, the alien ships have reached the station. Energy readings are spiking across the entire alien fleet. Jake watched on the tactical display as 50 crystalline ships surrounded the small research station. The station was just a collection of habitat modules and laboratories spinning slowly in space. It looked fragile and helpless next to the alien warships. Captain, Amy said with tears in her voice, Dr. Kim says they need 20 minutes to evacuate everyone properly. Jake looked at the display where the alien ships were forming a perfect sphere around the station. Tell her she has 5 minutes. Tell her to get people to the pods however she can. The bridge crew watched in horror as streams of brilliant blue energy lanced out from every alien ship at once. The research station simply vanished in a ball of white light that hurt to look at. When the light faded, there was nothing left but scattered debris and the glow of superheated metal cooling in space. 200 people had just died in front of Jake's eyes. Scientists who had never hurt anyone, people with families waiting for them to come home. Veltar's image reappeared on the screen. This is what happens to trespassers in Zephyrian space. Consider this a merciful warning, Captain Morrison. Jake felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. You murdered civilians, scientists who were no threat to anyone. We eliminated a violation of our territory. Your species has 72 of your hours to remove all human presence from our expansion zone. This includes 43 star systems that your primitive maps show as unexplored. Any human found in these systems after the deadline will be destroyed without warning. And if we refuse? Veltar's black eyes seemed to gleam with anticipation. Then we will visit your homeworld and demonstrate why 17 civilizations have learned to fear the Zephyrian Empire. Your species will join them in extinction. The screen went dark and the alien fleet began moving away from the horizon. They moved with the same perfect formation they had arrived, with as if the destruction of the research station had been nothing more than target practice. Jake stood in the silence of his bridge looking at the debris field where 200 people had been alive just minutes before. His crew waited for orders, but he was thinking about something else entirely. Amy broke the silence. Captain, should I send a message to Earth Command? Jake nodded slowly. Send everything. Full tactical data on the alien ships. Complete recording of our conversation with their commander. Tell them about the ultimatum and make sure they understand these aliens do not negotiate. As Amy worked, Jake moved to the tactical display showing the 43 systems the aliens claimed. Many of them had human colonies or research stations. Millions of people who had no idea their lives had just been threatened by creatures who saw murder as a reasonable response to a simple misunderstanding. Sir, Lisa said quietly, what do you think Earth will do? Jake looked at his science officer and saw his own thoughts reflected in her eyes. Earth was thousands of light years away. The colonies were scattered and lightly defended. Against technology like they had just witnessed, humanity seemed helpless. But Jake Morrison had been born on Earth. He knew something about his species that these Zephyrians would learn too late. Humans did not respond to threats the way other species might. They did not calculate odds or consider surrender when their families were in danger. They got angry. And angry humans were the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Lisa, he said as he watched the alien fleet disappear into hyperspace, I think they just made the biggest mistake in their empire's history. They think they are dealing with another species that will run when threatened. And we are not? Jake smiled, but there was no warmth in it. No, we are not. Send a message to all human colonies and ships in the area. Tell them to begin emergency preparations. And Lisa, yes sir? Tell them the Zephyrians just declared war on the wrong species. President Helen Rodriguez sat in the emergency meeting room deep beneath the Capitol, watching the recording from Captain Morrison's ship for the third time. The image of Research Station Alpha disappearing in a ball of white light made her stomach turn, but she forced herself to watch it again. 200 innocent people had died, and now someone was threatening to kill millions more. Admiral Carl Bennett paused the recording and looked around the table at the other military leaders. The alien commander gave us 72 hours to evacuate 43 star systems. That includes 8 major colonies and dozens of research stations. General Patricia Cox leaned forward in her chair. How many people are we talking about? Approximately 4 million civilians spread across those systems. Moving that many people would take months even if we had enough ships. Dr. Kevin Park from Advanced Weapons Research shook his head. The energy readings from those alien weapons are beyond anything we have ever seen. Our best defensive systems would not last 10 seconds against technology like that. Helen looked at each person around the table. These were the best military minds humanity had, but she could see the fear in their eyes. Fear and something else, something that made her think of her grandfather who had fought in the last great war on Earth. Admiral Bennett, what are our current military assets in the threatened systems? Madam President, we have approximately 200 ships of various classes scattered across the region. Most are patrol vessels or cargo haulers with basic defensive weapons. Against 57 alien warships, they would not stand a chance. Helen stood up and walked to the large display showing the threatened star systems. Each red dot represented thousands of human lives. People who had left Earth to build new homes among the stars. People who trusted their government to protect them. Dr. Park, how long would it take to develop weapons that could fight these aliens? Madam President, even if we had samples of their technology, it would take years to understand it. We are talking about a completely different approach to physics. Their ships appear to generate energy levels that should be impossible. General Cox spoke up. What about evacuation? If we commandeer every available ship and work around the clock? Admiral Bennett pulled up logistics data on his tablet. We could move perhaps 500,000 people in 72 hours. That leaves 3.5 million civilians with no way out. The room fell silent. Helen looked at the faces around the table and saw what she expected. Military officers calculating impossible odds. Scientists talking about technological gaps that could not be bridged. Politicians thinking about surrender negotiations. But Helen Rodriguez had not become president by accepting impossible situations. She had grown up in a family where giving up was not an option. Her great-grandmother had survived the food riots of 1977. Her grandfather had fought in the resource wars. Her parents had helped build the first colony, ships when Earth was dying. Gentlemen, I want you to listen very carefully. We are not evacuating those systems. We are not surrendering to these aliens. We are going to fight. Dr. Park looked shocked. Madam President, with respect, their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Fighting them would be suicide. Doctor, do you have children? Yes, ma'am. 2 daughters. Do you love them? Of course. Then you understand why we fight. Because the alternative is watching our children grow up as slaves or not grow up at all. Admiral Bennett cleared his throat. Madam President, what exactly are you ordering us to do? Helen turned back to the display showing the threatened systems. Admiral, I want every available ship moved to defensive positions. Not to evacuate, but to fight. Every cargo hauler, every passenger liner, every mining vessel that can mount a weapon. Ma'am, most of those ships have no military training or equipment. Then we give them training and equipment. General Cox, I want every retired military officer recalled to active duty. Every reserve unit activated. Every military academy graduated early. General Cox was already taking notes. That will give us perhaps 50,000 additional personnel, but most lack experience with space combat. Experience is something you gain by surviving your first battle. Dr. Park, I want every weapons laboratory working around the clock. If we cannot match their technology, we will overwhelm it with numbers. Dr. Park looked doubtful. Madam President, quantity has limits against quality. One of their ships destroyed an entire research station in seconds. Helen smiled for the first time since the meeting began. Doctor, you are thinking like a scientist. I need you to think like a human being whose family is threatened. What would you do if aliens came to kill your daughters? I would fight them with everything I had. Exactly. And that is what we are going to do. Admiral Bennett pulled up fleet deployment charts. Ma'am, even if we mobilize every ship we can find, we are still talking about maybe 10,000 vessels against their 57. The numbers do not make sense. Admiral, the numbers never make sense when you are fighting for survival. But humans have won impossible battles before. Helen walked back to her chair but did not sit down. I want orders sent to every human colony and ship in space. Full military mobilization. Every able-bodied person reports for duty. Every factory begins producing weapons and ammunition. Every shipyard starts building whatever can fly and fight. Madam President, General Cox said carefully, you are talking about turning our entire civilization into a military machine. General, that is exactly what I am talking about. These aliens think they can threaten 4 million human lives and we will run away. They think we will calculate the odds and surrender rather than fight a war we might lose. Helen looked around the table at each person. They do not understand what they have done. They have not threatened a government or a military. They have threatened human families, human children, and there is nothing more dangerous in this universe than a human being fighting for their family. Dr. Park was quiet for a moment, then spoke. Ma'am, if we are really doing this, I have some projects that were considered too dangerous for development. Weapon systems that we shelved because they were too destructive. Unshelve them, Doctor. If we are going to war, we are going to win it. Admiral Bennett stood up. Madam President, I will need authorization to commandeer civilian vessels and draft civilian crews. You have it. Take whatever you need. General Cox was already sending messages on her communicator. I can have Colonel Steve Murphy and Commander Ruth Adams back on active duty within hours. They know space combat better than anyone. Do it. I want our best people in command positions immediately. Helen walked to the window that looked out over the capital city. Millions of people going about their normal lives not knowing that war was coming. In 72 hours they would all be different people. The comfortable peace of the past century was ending. There is something else, she said without turning around. I want this conversation recorded and transmitted to every human settlement in the galaxy. Not just the threatened systems, everyone. Admiral Bennett looked confused. Ma'am, why? Because when humans hear that aliens murdered 200 scientists and threatened to exterminate entire colonies, they are going to want to help. We will not just have ships from the threatened systems. We will have volunteers from across human space. Dr. Park nodded slowly. A unified response. Every human colony contributing ships and personnel. Exactly. The aliens think they are fighting the government of one species. They are actually fighting every human being who has ever loved someone. General Cox finished her communications and looked up. Ma'am, I am getting reports that civilian ships are already moving toward the threatened systems. People heard about the ultimatum and they are not waiting for orders. Helen smiled again. Of course they are. Because they are human. Admiral Bennett was reviewing deployment schedules on his tablet. If civilian volunteers keep arriving at this rate, we could have 20,000 ships within 48 hours. 20,000 ships full of angry humans facing an enemy that thinks we will run away, Helen said. I almost feel sorry for these Zephyrians. Dr. Park looked up from his own tablet where he was reviewing weapon specifications. Ma'am, there is one more thing. If we are really committing to this fight, we need to be prepared for casualties. These aliens have superior technology, and they have already shown they will kill civilians. Helen turned back to face the room. Dr. Human beings have been taking casualties for thousands of years. We have survived ice ages and plagues and wars that nearly destroyed our species. We are still here because we do not quit when the enemy is stronger than us. And if we lose, then we lose fighting. And maybe the next species these aliens threaten will remember that humans died on their feet rather than lived on their knees. Admiral Bennett stood up. Madam President, if we are doing this, we need to move fast. 72 hours is not much time to prepare for the biggest battle in human history. Helen looked one more time at the display showing the threatened star systems. 4 million lives depending on decisions made in this room. Children who deserve to grow up free. Families who deserve to live without fear. Admiral Bennett, you are right about one thing. This will be the biggest battle in human history. But you are wrong about something else, ma'am. It will not be the biggest battle because of how many ships we bring. It will be the... Fleet Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the sensor displays with growing confusion. His intelligence officers had assured him that humans would flee when faced with superior Zephyrian military power. Instead, his sensors showed something that made no sense at all. Commander, his tactical officer Kethmore reported, we are detecting massive ship movements throughout human space. Our long-range sensors show vessels converging on the threatened systems from every direction. Veltar studied the tactical display. Thousands of contacts were moving at maximum speed toward what should have been evacuation zones. How many ships are we tracking? Sir, our best estimate is over 50,000 vessels of various sizes. The number keeps growing as more ships enter sensor range. 50,000 ships. Veltar repeated the number slowly. In 3 centuries of conquest, the Zephyrian Empire had never faced more than a few hundred enemy vessels at once. What classes of ships are they deploying? Kethmore looked uncomfortable. Commander, that is the strange part. Most of these contacts appear to be civilian vessels. Cargo haulers, mining ships, passenger liners. Very few match known human military configurations. Veltar felt the first stirring of unease. Are they evacuating their populations using civilian ships? Sir, that is what we assumed initially, but the movement patterns are wrong for evacuation. These ships are not fleeing the threatened systems. They are moving toward them and taking defensive positions. On the outer edge of the Kepler 442 system, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the most incredible sight of his life. Ships were arriving from every corner of human space. Massive cargo haulers that normally carried grain between agricultural worlds now mounted improvised weapon systems. Passenger liners designed for luxury travel had been converted into troop transports filled with volunteer fighters. Lisa Yang looked up from her sensor station with amazement in her voice.
Captain, I am reading contact after contact.
Ships I have never seen before. There's a mining vessel from the Tau Ceti system that took 6 months to get here, a colony transport from New Geneva that should still be in hyperspace for another week. Jake nodded as he watched the tactical display. When humans hear that aliens murdered civilians and threatened to exterminate colonies, they drop everything to help. It's who we are. Mike Henderson was coordinating with the arriving ships and trying to organize them into some kind of battle formation. Sir, I have captains asking for orders who have never been in a military engagement. Civilian volunteers who learn to use weapons during the trip here. Then we teach them fast. Mike, war has a way of turning civilians into soldiers in a hurry. Amy. Carter looked up from her communication station.
Captain, I have Admiral Bennett on priority channel from Earth Command. The main screen changed to show Admiral Bennett sitting in what looked like a mobile command center.
Behind him, Jake could see dozens of officers working at tactical stations. Captain Morrison, I am promoting you to Admiral and giving you command of Battle Group 7. You know these aliens better than anyone. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Sir, what are my orders? You have tactical command of all human forces in the Kepler 442 system. Organize them however you think best. Your primary mission is to survive long enough for reinforcements to arrive. How many reinforcements, sir? Admiral Bennett smiled grimly. Admiral Morrison, every human colony is sending ships. Every retired military officer has volunteered for active duty. We estimate total human forces at over 100,000 vessels within 72 hours. Jake looked at Lisa and Mike, who were staring at the screen in shock. Sir, did you say 100,000 ships? That's our conservative estimate. Could be more. It seems that threatening to exterminate human families was not the best way to encourage surrender. The transmission ended, and Jake turned to his crew. You heard the Admiral? Lisa, I want you working with the civilian captains to coordinate sensor sweeps. Mike, start organizing combat formations. Amy, maintain communications with all arriving ships. As his crew worked, Jake studied the tactical situation. The Zephyrians had 57 ships with superior technology and weapons. Humanity had answered with over 50,000 vessels crewed by angry volunteers who had never fought a space battle in their lives. On paper, it looked like a massacre waiting to happen. But Jake had learned something important during his 15 years exploring space. Numbers meant nothing without the will to fight. And right now, humanity had more fighting spirit than any species in the galaxy. The Zephyrian fleet arrived exactly 72 hours after their ultimatum. Veltar expected to find empty star systems and fleeing refugee ships. Instead, his sensors detected the largest military formation in recorded galactic history. Commander, Kethmore reported with disbelief in his voice. I am reading over 60,000 human vessels in defensive positions around the inhabited worlds. They have not evacuated anyone. Veltar stared at the sensor display showing clouds of contacts surrounding every planet and station in the system. 60,000 ships. How is that possible? Our intelligence said humans had fewer than 500 military vessels. Sir, most of these are civilian conversions. Cargo ships with mounted weapons. Passenger liners carrying fighters. They appear to have turned their entire merchant fleet into a military force. Veltar had conquered 17 star systems using superior technology and tactical precision. He had never faced an enemy willing to sacrifice their entire civilian infrastructure for a single battle. What is their tactical formation? Commander, there is no formation. They are spread throughout the system in what appears to be random clusters. Some groups have a few dozen ships, others have several thousand. It makes no tactical sense. But it made perfect sense to Admiral Morrison, who was coordinating the human defense from his position near the system's primary planet. He had divided the civilian volunteers into small groups, each led by experienced military officers. Captain Tony Blake commanded a squadron of converted mining vessels. Commander Sandra White led a group of passenger liners filled with volunteer fighters. "Admiral," Lisa reported, "the alien fleet is moving into attack formation, 57 ships in perfect tactical alignment." Jake opened a channel to all human forces. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Remember what we talked about. We cannot match their technology, but we can outlast them. Every ship they destroy costs them energy and ammunition. Make them work for every victory." The first Zephyrian attack was devastating. Streams of blue energy lanced across space, destroying entire squadrons of human ships in seconds. Captain Joe Martinez and his crew of volunteer miners died when their converted hauler took a direct hit from a Zephyrian cruiser. Commander Linda Foster's passenger liner exploded when its improvised shields failed under alien fire. But something unexpected happened as the battle continued. The human ships began adapting to Zephyrian tactics. Civilian captains who had spent their lives avoiding danger suddenly began using suicide runs and ramming attacks. Ships that should have fled instead closed with the alien vessels, trading their lives for damage to enemy hulls. Dr. Kevin Park's weapons modifications began showing results. Industrial lasers designed for mining operations punched through Zephyrian shields when used in coordinated strikes. Kinetic projectiles launched from cargo. Handling systems proved surprisingly effective against the crystalline alien hull structures. Most importantly, the humans demonstrated something Veltar had never encountered in 3 centuries of conquest. They learned from every mistake and adapted their tactics in real time. When conventional weapons failed, they tried ramming attacks. When shields proved useless, they relied on speed and numbers. Captain Gary Chen led his squadron of converted freight haulers in a coordinated assault on a Zephyrian destroyer. His ship was destroyed, but not before his crew managed to damage the alien vessel's main weapon system. The destroyer limped away from the battle, missing half its forward section. Admiral Morrison watched the tactical display as human losses mounted into the thousands. But he also watched Zephyrian ships taking damage they had never experienced before. The aliens were learning that superior technology meant nothing against an enemy willing to die rather than surrender. "Admiral," Mike Henderson reported, "we have lost over 8,000 ships, but look at this. The alien fleet has lost 12 vessels, and most of the survivors show significant damage." Jake studied the sensor readings. In any normal battle, losing 8,000 ships would be considered a complete disaster. But this was not a normal battle. This was humanity fighting for its survival against an enemy that had never lost a war. All ships maintain attack patterns. Target damaged alien vessels with everything you have. Show them that threatening human families was the biggest mistake in their empire's history. The battle raged for 6 hours, before Veltar finally ordered his fleet to withdraw. He had lost 23 ships, and most of his remaining vessels were too damaged to continue fighting. The humans had lost over 15,000 ships, but showed no signs of retreating. As the Zephyrian fleet limped away from the battle zone, Veltar sat in his command chair, trying to understand what had happened. His superior technology had killed thousands of enemy ships, but the humans kept coming. They fought like 6 months after the first battle. Humanity had transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before. Every human world had become a military base. Every factory produced weapons or ships. Every person served the war effort in some way. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center of the massive space station orbiting Earth, watching reports come in from across human space. The station had been built in just 4 months using materials from 3 asteroid mining operations and the combined efforts of 1 million workers who volunteered their time. "Admiral," Lisa Yang reported from her position as Chief of Intelligence, "we now have confirmed military assets in 47 star systems. Total ship count is approaching 200,000 vessels of all classes." Jake looked at the strategic display showing human territory. Red dots marked Zephyrian positions while blue showed human-controlled systems. 6 months ago, the aliens had controlled 17 systems. Now they held only 9, and those were under constant attack. Mike Henderson entered the command center carrying data tablets and looking exhausted. As Chief of Military Operations, he coordinated battles across dozens of systems simultaneously. "Admiral, we just received confirmation from the Vega system. Admiral Kate Sullivan's task force destroyed the Zephyrian supply depot. No human losses. How is that possible? 6 months ago, we were losing hundreds of ships in every engagement." Mike smiled for the first time in weeks. "Admiral, we are not the same species we were 6 months ago. Every battle teaches us something new. Every victory makes us stronger. The transformation had been incredible to watch. Civilian captains who had never fired a weapon in anger became expert tactical commanders. Factory workers who had built household goods learned to manufacture advanced weapon systems. Scientists who had studied peaceful applications of technology devoted their lives to creating better ways to fight. Dr. Nancy Torres entered the command center carrying a sealed case that made Jake's security detail nervous. As head of advanced weapons development, she had access to projects that could reshape the war. "Admiral, I have something to show you. We finished reverse engineering the Zephyrian energy systems." She opened the case to reveal a crystalline device that pulsed with blue light. "This is a prototype weapon based on captured alien technology. We call it the Fusion Lance. It generates energy levels comparable to their main battle weapons." Jake studied the device carefully. "How many can we produce?" "Sir, we already have factories on 12 worlds beginning mass production. Within 60 days, we will have enough to equip every major warship in the fleet." Amy Carter looked up from her communications station where she coordinated with human forces across the galaxy. "Admiral, I have General Alex Turner requesting permission to begin Operation Hammerfall." Jake nodded. Operation Hammerfall was the largest military operation in human history. Simultaneous attacks on all remaining Zephyrian positions using over 100,000 ships and 2 million personnel. "Tell General Turner he has authorization. Begin the operation immediately." The plan was ambitious beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. Admiral Ryan Johnson would lead the assault on the Zephyrian stronghold at Rigel. Vice Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded the attack on their shipyards at Procyon. Captain Dan Wright's engineering corps would target their supply lines throughout the outer systems. But the most important mission belonged to Admiral Morrison himself. Intelligence reports indicated that the Zephyrian High Command was located in the Altair system, along with their remaining fleet of over 300 ships. If Jake could destroy their leadership, the war might finally end. The human assault began exactly as planned, with coordinated attacks across 9 star systems simultaneously. Ships that had been civilian cargo haulers 2 years ago now fought with the precision of veteran military units. Captains who had learned tactics through trial and error commanded squadrons with the skill of academy graduates. In the Rigel system, Admiral Johnson's forces overwhelmed the Zephyrian defenders using swarm tactics that the aliens had never encountered. Instead of fighting ship to ship, the humans attacked in waves of hundreds of vessels. When the first wave was destroyed, the second wave continued the attack. When the second wave fell, the third wave finished the job. At Procyon, Vice Admiral Sullivan demonstrated humanity's greatest advantage over their enemies. When her initial assault failed, she immediately changed tactics and attacked from a different angle. When that failed, she tried a third approach. The Zephyrians fought with rigid tactical doctrine. The humans adapted to whatever worked. Captain Wright's engineering teams showed what human creativity could accomplish when properly motivated. They turned asteroid mining equipment into orbital bombardment weapons. They converted passenger liners into mobile factories that could build replacement fighters during battle. They transformed scientific research stations into electronic warfare platforms that could jam Zephyrian communications. But the most important battle took place in the Altair system, where Admiral Morrison faced the largest Zephyrian fleet ever assembled. High Commander Nethqual had gathered every remaining ship under his control to make a final stand against the human invasion. "Admiral," Lisa reported, "sensors show 317 alien vessels in defensive formation around Altair Prime. This is their entire remaining fleet." Jake studied the tactical situation. The humans had brought 400 ships to this battle, including their newest vessels equipped with Dr. Torres's fusion weapons. For the first time in the war, they had both numerical and technological superiority. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Today we end this war." These aliens thought they could threaten human families and we would surrender. They thought superior technology made them invincible. They were wrong about everything. The final battle began with the Zephyrians using their traditional tactics. Perfect formations launching coordinated energy attacks designed to destroy human ships through superior firepower. But the humans no longer relied on converted civilian vessels and improvised weapons. The new human warships had been designed specifically for fighting Zephyrians. Their armor could withstand direct hits from alien energy weapons. Their shields used modified Zephyrian technology to deflect incoming fire. Most importantly, their weapons could destroy enemy ships with single shots. Captain Maria Santos commanded the heavy cruiser UES Retribution in the first wave of the human assault. Her ship had been built using lessons learned from 100 previous battles. When Zephyrian plasma beams struck her shields, they reflected harmlessly into space. When her fusion lances fired back, they punched through alien armor like paper. Admiral Morrison watched from his flagship as the battle turned into a rout. Zephyrian ships that had once seemed invincible were being destroyed faster than their crews could react. The aliens who had conquered 17 civilizations were learning what it meant to fight an enemy that refused to quit. "Admiral," Mike Henderson reported with excitement in his voice, "the alien fleet is breaking formation. Multiple ships are attempting to withdraw from the battle zone." Jake opened a channel to all human forces. "Do not let them escape. Every alien ship that survives today is a threat to human families tomorrow. Pursue and destroy all enemy vessels." The human fleet scattered across the Altair system, hunting down fleeing Zephyrian ships. Captains who had once been cargo haulers and passenger liner pilots now commanded the most advanced warships in the galaxy. They had learned to fight from necessity and become masters of war through experience. High Commander Nethqual sat on the bridge of his flagship, watching his empire die. 3 centuries of conquest were ending in a single battle against an enemy his people had underestimated. The humans had transformed from peaceful explorers into the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever seen. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we have lost over 200 ships. Our remaining forces are scattered and requesting permission to surrender." Nethqual looked at the tactical display showing human ships pursuing his fleeing vessels. 6 months ago, these same humans had been losing thousands of ships in every battle. Now they moved with perfect coordination and overwhelming firepower. "Open a channel to the human commander," he ordered. "I wish to discuss terms of surrender." Admiral Morrison's image appeared on the screen. Behind him, Nethqual could see the bridge of a human warship filled with officers who had learned war the hard way. "High Commander, I am prepared to accept your unconditional surrender." "Admiral Morrison, our species made an error in judgment. We offer to return to our original territory and cease all hostile actions against humanity." Jake looked at the alien commander with cold eyes. "High Commander, your species murdered 200 innocent scientists. You threatened to exterminate human colonies. You declared war on families and children. There will be no negotiated peace. Then what are your terms? Complete surrender of all Zephyrian military forces. Immediate evacuation of all occupied worlds that do not belong to your species. Reparations to be paid to the families of every human killed in this war." Nethqual realized he had no choice. The Zephyrian Empire was finished. "I accept your terms, Admiral Morrison." The transmission ended and Jake turned to his crew. Lisa, Amy, and Mike had served with him since the beginning of the war. They had watched humanity transfee. 2 years had passed since the Zephyrian Empire surrendered, and the galaxy was a very different place. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the UES Dominion, watching human construction crews build a new starbase in what used to be Zephyrian territory. The massive station would serve as headquarters for the 7th Human Defense Fleet, one of 12 such fleets now, protecting human interests across 68 star systems. Jake had been promoted to Supreme Admiral of all human military forces, a position that did not exist before the war. Lisa Yang now served as Director of Galactic Intelligence, coordinating information gathering across known space. Mike Henderson commanded the Colonial Defense Corps, responsible for protecting human settlements on hundreds of worlds. Amy Carter ran the Diplomatic Communications Service, managing contact with the 43 alien species that had requested peaceful relations with humanity. The transformation was complete. Humanity had evolved from peaceful explorers into the dominant military power in the galaxy. Their territory stretched across more space than any empire in recorded history. Their fleets patrolled trade routes and protected smaller species from aggression. Their technology combined human innovation with captured alien science to create weapons and ships beyond anything previously imagined. "Admiral," Lisa reported as she entered the observation deck, carrying intelligence reports. "We are receiving requests for military assistance from 6 different species. The Altarian Republic wants protection from raiders. The Vegan Trade Consortium needs escort ships for their merchant fleets. 3 minor species are asking for help with territorial disputes." Jake reviewed the requests, noting how different they were from the Zephyrian ultimatum that started everything. These aliens approached humanity with respect and offered payment for protection services. They had learned what the Zephyrians discovered too late about threatening the wrong. Species. Approved all requests. Lisa. Assign appropriate task forces and make sure our captains understand they represent humanity to these alien civilizations. Mike Henderson joined them on the observation deck wearing the uniform of a colonial defense general. Admiral, I have the final casualty reports from the war. Total human losses were 437,000 personnel across all services. Zephyrian losses exceeded 2 million, including civilian populations on military worlds. The numbers still made Jake thoughtful. Nearly 500,000 humans had died because aliens decided that threatening families was an acceptable form of diplomacy. But those deaths had purchased something valuable. They had shown the galaxy that humanity would fight to extinction rather than accept subjugation. How are the Zephyrian survivors adapting to the peace terms? Sir, they are complying with all requirements. War reparations are being paid on schedule. Their remaining military forces have been disbanded. Most of their population has returned to their original homeworld and accepted human oversight of their government. Amy Carter entered carrying communication logs from across human space. Admiral, we just received a priority transmission from Earth Command. President Rodriguez wants to speak with you immediately. The main display activated, showing President Helen Rodriguez sitting in her office overlooking the rebuilt Capitol. Behind her, Jake could see construction crews working on monuments to honor the war dead. Admiral Morrison, I have news that will interest you. We have made contact with a new alien species called the Draconian Alliance. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Ma'am, what kind of contact? They sent a diplomatic mission to Earth requesting a meeting. Very polite, very respectful. Apparently they have heard about our war with the Zephyrians and want to establish friendly relations before any misunderstandings occur. Jake smiled for the first time in weeks. Smart aliens. They learned from the Zephyrian mistake. Admiral, there is something else. Our long-range sensors have detected what appears to be a massive alien fleet moving through the Outer Rim territories. Unknown configuration, unknown intentions. They are not responding to communication attempts. Jake looked at Lisa, Mike, and Amy, who had served with him since the first encounter with hostile aliens. Ma'am, are you requesting military action? Not yet, Admiral. But I want our fleets ready for anything. If these new aliens are planning another ultimatum, I want them to understand what happened to the last species that threatened humanity. The transmission ended, and Jake turned to his senior staff. Lisa, I want full intelligence assessment on this new alien fleet. Numbers, capabilities, intentions, everything we can determine. Mike, begin moving our reserve fleets to defensive positions around major human worlds. Amy, start monitoring all communications channels for any signs of hostile intent. As his staff worked, Jake thought about the changes the war had brought to humanity. Before the Zephyrian ultimatum, humans had been scattered across space in small colonies connected only by trade and communication. They had no unified military, no coordinated defense, no sense of species identity beyond shared biology. The war had changed everything. Faced with extinction, humans had discovered they were not just individuals or families or colonists. They were part of something larger. They were humanity, and that meant something important to every person who called Earth their ancestral home. Admiral, Lisa reported. Initial sensor analysis suggests the unknown fleet contains over 5,000 ships. Configuration is completely different from Zephyrian or any other known technology. They appear to be moving toward the Centauri sector. Jake studied the tactical display showing the alien fleet's projected course. The Centauri sector contained 12 human colonies, including New Geneva, with over 2 million inhabitants. If these aliens had hostile intentions, they were heading toward one of humanity's most populated regions. Mike, how long to get our nearest battle fleet to Centauri? Sir Admiral Kate Sullivan's Third Fleet is currently in the Vega system. Transit time would be 18 hours at maximum speed. Order Admiral Sullivan to Centauri immediately. Full battle readiness. Amy looked up from her communication station. Admiral, I am receiving reports from our monitoring stations. The alien fleet has begun broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Can you translate the transmission? Sir, the language is completely new, but the computer is making progress. Give me a few minutes. Jake waited as Amy worked at her station. After dealing with 43 different alien species, human computers had become very good at rapid translation. Most new languages could be decoded within hours instead of days. Admiral, I have basic translation capability. The aliens are calling themselves the hegemony. They are broadcasting what appears to be a demand for submission from all species in this sector of the galaxy. Jake felt a familiar cold anger settle in his chest. Amy put the translation on speakers. The bridge filled with an electronically translated alien voice speaking in flat mechanical tones. Attention inferior species. You are now within territory claimed by the hegemony. You will immediately cease all military activities and prepare for integration into our collective. Resistance will result in the complete elimination of your species. Mike Henderson looked at Jake with amazement. Admiral, are they seriously giving us an ultimatum? After what happened to the last aliens who tried that approach? Jake walked to the main tactical display showing human fleet positions across known space. 12 major battle fleets containing over 300,000 ships crewed by veterans who had learned warfare against the Zephyrians. Industrial complexes on dozens of worlds producing advanced weapons systems. A unified human government dedicated to protecting their people from any threat. Amy sent a response to the hegemony on all frequencies. Yes, sir. What should I tell them? Jake looked at his senior staff who had served with him since the war began. Lisa Yang, who had helped transform human intelligence gathering into the most effective spy network in the galaxy. Mike Henderson, who had built the Colonial Defense Corps into a force that protected human interests on hundreds of worlds. Amy Carter, who had learned to speak with dozens of alien species and helped humanity navigate galactic politics. Tell them exactly what we told the Zephyrians, Amy. Tell them that humanity does not negotiate with species that threaten our families. Tell them that we have fought one war of extinction and won. Tell them that if they want another war, we are ready to fight it. Amy transmitted the message and turned back to Jake. Admiral, what if they ignore our warning like the Zephyrians did? Jake smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Then they will learn the same lesson the Zephyrians learned. You do not threaten human children and expect to survive the consequences. Lisa pulled up intelligence files on their computer systems. Admiral preliminary analysis suggests the hegemony has conquered at least 20 star systems. They appear to use advanced robotics and artificial intelligence for their military forces. Good, Jake said. Robots do not adapt the way humans do. They follow programming instead of learning from experience. If they want to fight a species that improvises and innovates, they picked the wrong enemy. Mike was already coordinating fleet movements on his tactical display. Admiral, I can have 6 full battle fleets in position within 48 hours. Total strength over 150,000 ships with full alien technology integration. Jake looked out the viewport at human construction.